Our final topic for Chapter 2 is on the trial balance. The trial balance is also an important concept to understand because we're going to be doing three different trial balances during our accounting process. They are completed the same manner, so learning it now will make it easier for when we do the other two. This is just the first one. The trial balance lists all the accounts and balances from the ledger. It is a listing of all accounts. Once we put in all the account names and balances, we will total the debit and credit columns. After the columns are totaled, we verify that debits equal credits. If they do not equal, then we know there is an error and we will need to fix that error before progressing. If they do equal, it does not mean that it is completely free from errors, but we at least know that we are on the right track and that our debits and credits do equal. Here's an example of what a trial balance will look like. In that header, we have the company name, the statement type, and the date. We will list all the account names and balances from the ledger. If there is a debit balance, use the debit column, and if there's a credit balance, use the credit column. Total the debit and credit columns. Make sure that the debits equal the credits. When listing the accounts, we want to make sure it goes in order by account number. Our assets will be listed first, followed by liabilities, and then the equity accounts, the capital and withdrawal accounts, and then the revenue and expense accounts. Let's practice preparing a trial balance together. This is part C on problem number 2. We will be using the ledger accounts and balances from part B to complete this. The first thing we want to do is put in the header. We put in the company name, which is LinkWorks, the type of statement, which is a trial balance, and the date as of the last date of when we're getting our information from, which would be the end of April. So all this information, all these account balances are as of April 30th. We want to list all the accounts. So let's go back to the ledger and take a look at all the accounts we have and put in the balances. The first account from our ledger is cash account number 101. The final balance would be the very last number in the balance column. So on the trial balance, we're going to list cash, and then we're going to put in a debit of $72,400. Let's do that now. On the trial balance, I'm going to write in cash, and in the debit column, put the $72,400. And that's what we're going to be doing with all the ledger accounts. So a lot of students get a little overwhelmed looking at the trial balance, but it's actually extremely easy to complete because all the account names and totals have already been completed for us. We're just listing them all. The next account after cash is accounts receivable. Let's take a look at that ledger account. Here at the bottom, we have accounts receivable, and the balance was 0. This is what we're going to put into the trial balance. After cash, we just write accounts receivable and put 0 in the debit column because there is no balance. Let's take a look at what comes after accounts receivable. Our final two asset accounts are office supplies and office equipment. We're going to list office supplies with the balance of $4,200 as a debit and office equipment with a debit balance of $8,000. After that, we'll also list accounts payable, which is a liability account, and it has a credit balance of $600. Let's list these three accounts next. The first account we have is office supplies with a debit balance of $4,200. Next, we have office equipment with a debit balance of $8,000. Next, we have the accounts payable, which is the liability account with a credit balance. We will list accounts payable, and we just move our balance to the credit column instead of the debit column because accounts payable has a credit balance. Let's take a look at the next accounts. Our final accounts would be Tanner Capital, Tanner Withdrawals, Service Revenue, and Utilities Expense. For capital, we'll put in an $80,000 credit. For the withdrawals, we'll put in a $5,500 debit. For service revenue, a $10,000 credit, and utilities expense a $500 debit. Let's put these four accounts in now. First, we have Tanner Capital with an $80,000 credit. Next, we have the Tanner withdrawals for $5,500 on the debit side. And lastly, we have our revenues and our expenses. Service revenue with a $10,000 credit, and our utilities expense with a $500 debit. We want to total both these columns. When we total our debit and credit columns, we get $90,600. They do need to equal. If they don't, like I said before, it means you need to go back and check your ledger because something is not posted correctly. Because they do equal, we know we're on the right track. And like I said before, we're going to be doing trial balances multiple times through the accounting process. We're going to be looking at our ledger balances and making sure our debits and credits equal. I think it's pretty simple to do once you get the hang for it and you kind of understand how everything is connected. This is the end for my chapter 2 videos. Please make sure you practice this chapter as much as you possibly can before you move on to the next chapter. This is very important, and these topics really do come into play for every chapter we do in accounting going forward.